Hello and welcome to part 7 of the Modern Web Development Toolkit series. For those of you who haven't been following along, this is just a series of screencasts talking about some cross-platform free tools that are kind of a good starting kit for programming students, and specifically web programming students, even though some of the tools can be used for regular software application development. So in the previous part 6, we talked about Apache Cordova, which is a tool for developing mobile applications. Specifically, lets you take a web app, wrap it in native code so you can access hardware devices like the GPS or the home button or keyboards and the camera, and don't have to learn how to code in Java or Swift or Objective-C or C#. So just use your standard HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So free, open source, cross-platform, good stuff, works very well. It's mainly command line, and it's a little bit limited as far as deployment options. So I want to talk about PhoneGap. PhoneGap, Adobe took the Cordova code, which is open source, and they split it off, and they added some stuff to it. They added some deployment options. They really kind of juiced up the value add for Cordova and created what they call their product PhoneGap. Now, my suggestion is, if you're new to this, start with Cordova. Get comfortable with that. It doesn't take that long to get comfortable with it. And then if you need a little more oomph, a little more options, jump into PhoneGap because then you'll have a good solid foundation. Now, PhoneGap, like Cordova, starts out as a command line tool, and just like Cordova, we can install it using Node Package Manager, NPM. And if we type PhoneGap from the command line, we get a very nice usage help document here. So I'm going to go ahead. I have a folder already called Phone App where I'm going to create my tool. Was my app, create, and the path is Phone App. Helps if I spell PhoneGap correctly. And it happens. Grind. Now, if we look at the Phone App folder, which is in my IDE here, we see that we've got all of these very, very familiar folders and files that we saw from Cordova, and it's pretty much the same layout. Now, there are some Yeoman generators, and we talked about Yeoman in a previous video. There are some Yeoman generators that will build, scaffold Cordova and PhoneGap projects for you, and just with a little extra options. But you can create your projects strictly from PhoneGap itself. So just to show you how basic this is, I'm going to go ahead and fire up. This is my Hello World. Let me go into my my project folder and say PhoneGap, run, and in this case, I'm going to be targeting iOS. So I'll say run iOS, and notice that Cordova is still built into the code, the name Cordova, even though this is PhoneGap. So they haven't completely gotten rid of their legacy options here. But what they've done is they've combined a bunch of Cordova commands into the run command. So whereas this would be 2 or 3 commands on Cordova, with PhoneGap it's just one. So really easy. This is the iPhone emulator that comes with the Apple Developer Tools. So if you don't really have an iOS device and you want to target it, or you want to try different iOS devices, this might be a good way to go. And certainly works just the same way as it does in Cordova, if you saw the previous video, and I really hope you did, except that it says PhoneGap and it's a slightly different icon. That's pretty much it. So let's quit that. We're good. Now, where PhoneGap adds some value is with the mobile app. They have an Android, iOS mobile app that you can use to test and deploy, well, to test your application. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up if I can find it. I'm going to pull up my iPhone. I have my iPhone plugged into my current desktop, and this is what the app looks like, just to prove that this is in fact my iPhone. Just showing you this is not some blank poster thing, but all I have to do here is I will start up the PhoneGap server, and that is easy as pie. I am in my project folder. I just type PhoneGap serve. Hopefully that'll work. Boom, and it says listening on .27 3000. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in that number. And try, go ahead and connect. See if that works. Download, extracting success. Boom, PhoneGap device is ready. Now this is actually rolling on my iPhone even as we speak, and we see a little log of what's going on as it's communicating with the phone. Now, what's nifty about this is a live reload server. So let's go to test that, and let's go to my code, and this is the HTML that's rendering my phone screen. Okay, so we have PhoneGap and devices ready. So PhoneGap, let's change that to my little PhoneGap pony. Save it, and boom, shows up right there on the screen. So this is really, really nifty, because you can have your actual device out there. You can try actual hardware buttons and try to access the camera and the GPS and so forth. Really, really a nice way of testing and developing your app. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the server. Okay. Now, next way to do this is with the mobile desktop client. So PhoneGap has a desktop that's available for Windows and Mac OS X. Do not believe it's available for Linux at this time, but Linux users certainly can either do this in a virtual machine or just do it from the command line, and that works fine as well. So I'm going to go ahead, and here's the PhoneGap app. It's you can either take a project. I could take this phone app project and just drag and drop it onto my PhoneGap client, or I can go and create a new one. So I'm going to go create a new one, and let's see. And I have another folder that I put together called Desk App to show that this was created with the Desk App. Okay, and this is another Hello World type project. And we see over here that it's empty. It's an empty folder. And we're going to grind. Create project, grind. And there's Desk App. And in fact, it created a folder under Desk App, which is kind of odd. So Desk App, fine. I'll deal with it. And now the server is automatically running. So let me go ahead and see if I can pull that up on my I'm going to pull it. It says 26, 27, 3000. Go ahead and connect it. So it seems like it already has the same. Okay, it already has the same address. So we get the device ready just like we did before, and it should still be live reload. Let's make sure that that's the case. Let's see, device is really ready. Okay, and there we go. Device is still live reload. So if you're more comfortable in a GUI, this might be the way to go. There are some additional options. You can go to your settings. You can change the port. You can get send some diagnostic data to Adobe. You can get to see the log. This is the sort of stuff we saw at the command line when we ran the PhoneGap server. And of course, you can get all sorts of other stuff in here, and it works pretty well. It's not bad at all. You still need to have the SDK installed for whatever platform you're planning on using. But it's all right. It certainly is a little step beyond the Cordova options. Cordova does not give you these options, so it's nice to be flexible. So let me go ahead and close that if I can. Okay, I'm going to close my screen there, and let's take a look at the way that we can deploy our apps without having to install any SDKs whatsoever on our desktop. In other words, this is PhoneGap Build. Now, if you already have an Adobe account, you can log into PhoneGap Build, build.phonegap.com, and an Adobe account is free. The base pricing is free. There are some differences here. You can upload or your code from a Git repository, GitHub, Bitbucket, what have you. You can also use their sample application and mess around with that. And once you've got it built, you can install it on your mobile device using this QR code, which is kind of cool. Now, you pick the platforms that you're deploying to. Once again, you do not have to have any of this other stuff installed, and then it's going to try to build it for those platforms. But here's the difference between doing it out in the cloud and doing it on your desktop. If you're doing it through PhoneGap Build, and I'll give you an example with the iOS version of this app, you need to be totally ready to deploy to the App Store. In a sense, you need a signing key, you need a developer certificate, so you will need an Apple developer account. That's about, I think, $100 a year for an individual. It used to be free, just basics, but you're definitely going to need that. You're going to need to get some stuff together before you'll be able to successfully get working on iOS. Anyway, now Windows is a little bit different, and Android, for example, it shows here Android is stop me. Anyway, the Android version of this is pretty much set. You can put a signing key on there if you're planning on uploading this to the Google App Store, because they're going to need that. But if you're just going to deploy this Android app yourself, or you're going to put it on a third-party store that doesn't require a developer signature, then you're good to go as far as deploying from PhoneGap Build. Anyway, this is kind of beyond the scope of this tutorial, just to get really deeply into PhoneGap Build, but at least I hope I gave you sort of the general idea and also gave you a good introduction to PhoneGap, a nice comparison with Cordova. So I will see you next time.